Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, tracking the Toronto Raptors 118-95 win against the Boston Celtics. Now, there's been a lot of talk recently. We're coming down the stretch of the season. All these teams made moves. Toronto Raptors obviously picked up Jeremy Lin, Marc Gasol, even Jody Meeks has been a solid signing. The Bucks got Mirotic. There's been a lot of talk. Obviously, the Sixers did everything they did. There's been a lot of talk. Who's the best team in the Eastern Conference going down the stretch? And if you hear a lot of the media reporters, everyone says the Boston Celtics. Kawhi Leonard's barely an improvement on DeMar. The Raptors are just a playoff, whatever team. Listen to the American media and all that sort of stuff. We'll take it with a grain of salt, and the Toronto Raptors will as well. There's been this narrative that the Toronto Raptors have been struggling as of late. They had a 7 or 8 game win streak going into that, unfortunate loss against the Magic the weekend, and, they came out in this one tonight and destroyed the Boston Celtics. It was absolute destruction of those Celtic folk in New England. The whole roster was cooking, and it was a message game. It was a game that to really say the Toronto Raptors are ready to go down the stretch, and it's something that we needed because this game, the Boston Celtics, they've been kind of struggling as of late, but despite everyone saying they're still the most important team in the East, they're very talented. I'm not counting the Boston Celtics out by any means, so don't let any, reactions to this game think that the Celtics are trash. They're going to be a very formidable opponent for whoever they face in the playoffs, whether it's the Sixers, the Celtics, they won't play themselves, the Sixers, the Bucks, us, but tonight was a message. Tonight was a message sent from the Toronto Raptors. The whole starting unit played amazing. Let's just dive straight into it. The first guy we got to talk about, Pascal Siakam. My goodness, Pascal Siakam, I know it's not his career high. He hadn't that amazing game against Washington, but this game going against the Celtics, the efficiency, everything, the timely buckets, all that is definitely one of his most impressive showings for the whole season. 25 points, 7 defensive rebounds, 8 rebounds total, 2 steals, 2 assists, a block for Pascal, and 4 of 5 from the 3-point line, 10 of 16 from the field. That is ridiculous efficiency. He's out here getting these shots in the paint. His finishing around the rim, it's extended because the beginning of the year he was really taking over the league by storm with his spin moves, his attacks to the rim. People were kind of caught off guard by his speed and his ability to handle. And then as things adjusted, there's maybe a week or two stretch where Pascal struggled in the sense he wasn't getting 15 to 16 to 20 points per game. He's more so getting 8 to 10, and then completely adjusted to being guarded like a star in this league. Started hitting some tougher shots. He's improved his career high so many times this season. He shows out and pretty well at every game we see him playing, and now it's at a point where he's hitting ridiculously tough shots around the rim because he's that talented, he's that skilled. There's a lot of points where he was just getting the ball in the post, people were clearing out, there was doubles coming his way, he was making great reads. If the double came too early, he was throwing the pass so the ball could move around the floor. If it didn't come on time, he'd be posting up, he'd read the defense and hit these tough contested floaters. I know we keep saying it. It's not news to any Raptors fan. But Pascal Siakam looks like he could certainly be an All-NBA guy in the next few seasons. So shout out to my boy Spicy P. He's a killer this season. I love what he's doing. 3-point shooting. Pascal Siakam shot 80% from the 3-point line tonight. That's absolutely ridiculous. People are saying if he could get a 3-point shot consistent down, he's going to be a scary player. He's got that. He's got that now. He's finishing around the rim. He's dribbling. He's super fast. Enough about Siakam because this whole team played amazing. Kawhi Leonard, 21 points for him tonight, 9 of 15 from the field. Great defense as always, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Really played within the team. Kawhi Leonard's not one of those superstars that's going to demand 30 shots a game, take away from the other players. And if a guy like Siakam or a guy like Norm or any of these guys are cooking, he lets the offense flow, doesn't force anything. He hit a 3, he's got the mid-range game. Kawhi Leonard, slashing, has a bunch of dunks. The steals are always there. Kawhi Leonard is legit. Kawhi Leonard, we all know how great Kawhi Leonard is. He can amp it up to an even greater extent. He can dial it in, and I think that's a part of his superstardom. He's not going to demand it. He's not going to take away from his teammates. He plays within the team, can play ISO hero ball when we need it, but certainly that's not his only role. That's not the only position he can play. So shout out to Kawhi. I love having him as our main focus, our focal guy. Kyle Lowry, not the biggest point totals tonight, but again, he only took 6 shots because he didn't need to shoot. He hit a big 3 at the beginning, 7 points, 11 assists from Kyle Lowry, 6 rebounds. And this is what I've been saying. Kyle Lowry, we need him to be capable of scoring, but the facilitating and his ability to create for the team, get those charges. He drew a bunch of charges at the beginning, which were momentum shifters, really got the energy on the Toronto Raptors side. When Kyle Lowry's doing those things, that's where he really brings value. And if we had a roster like we did in 2016, then, with our starting unit with Carroll, Scola, and Jonas, Jonas is solid, but he's more of a 10, 12 point per game. Regardless, guys that couldn't score, the only player on that team could score. We need Kyle Lowry to drop 21 points per game. In the Raptors now, we don't need him to score that many buckets. We have guys like Siakam, Kawhi, or Ibaka. We have Lin and Norm off the bench who can always go off. Marc Gasol. We have a 3-time All-Star, who's not his prime anymore, but is still very, very short after his prime. He's coming off our bench. This team is ridiculous. So Kyle Lowry, we need him to be capable of going off. We need him capable of being an all-star. But on a night-to-night basis, if he's just giving us these assists, these playmakings, and being a threat, because by no means was he a liability tonight, it was just everyone had it cooking. This is Kyle Lowry, at his peak. Love it. I love what Kyle Lowry gave for the Raptors tonight. Serge Ibaka got a bunch of buckets, especially at the beginning of this game. Really got the energy going. 14 points, 6 of 7 from the field, super efficient. Danny Green hit a couple threes. Not the craziest night from Danny Green. Had a couple weird possessions, but certainly hit a couple threes. That's a bad game for Danny Green. 2 threes. That's saying something. He's a true 3-and-D, one of the best in the league for a role player. Shout out to Danny Green. The whole starting unit was great today. Played within their roles, did what they need to do. The bench was also awesome as well. Norman Powell, he's a guy that's been struggling the past few games. Some people, people are bashing him. It's fair, but he's been so good coming back from injury. He's had this poor week now, but his efficiency, his ability to drive, he's just been missing bunnies as of late, and tonight he kind of played within the offense once again. 11 points from Norman Powell, 3 or 4 from the 3-point line, just looked comfortable out there. When Norman Powell reels himself in, he had a couple of turnovers where he got a bit out of control. Norman Powell just needs to stop being super excited. He needs to just be chill, play within the team, and he does phenomenal. That's the Norman Powell we want to see, and he brought it tonight. We all know playoff Norm is a legit thing. He did it for us in the Indiana series. He did it for us in the Milwaukee series. Maybe as the big games inch closer, Norman Powell's getting better. He started off the season very poorly. As the season's progressed, he's gotten better despite that poor week lapse. So, Norman Powell, hopefully Norm God can continue. And Marc Gasol. People are going to look at the box score and say, Marc Gasol, oh my God, what a trash game. 5 points for a 3-time All-Star? That's whack. But you watch this game, you saw the impact that Marc Gasol had. His defense is ridiculous. I think the defensive system, he's been playing with the Memphis Grizzlies for such a long time. He's one of the best defenders in the league, even as an older player, just because of his positioning and size and his IQ down in the defensive end. And he's been playing with the Grizzlies for so long. They run the grit and grind system. I guess it must be difficult for him to adjust mid-season. We see him picking up a lot of fouls, just being late on his rotations and all that sort of stuff. But tonight was one of the best defensive showings I've seen from Gasol. He didn't have any. He had 1 block, but it didn't have any flashy plays. But he seemed to have good positioning. He missed a couple of free throws, was out of there. But the 8 assists, you can really see his playmaking on the court, and that's so valuable for the players he's playing around. And one thing I'd like to see more of too, the Raptors, Marc Gasol lives off pick and pops. That's something that he's done like the past 2 years of his career, not his whole career, but ever since the modern big man has shifted and he's had to adjust his game to knock down threes, a lot of his points came off pick and pops with Mike Conley. Obviously, Kyle Lowry's a bit better of a creator than Conley, so if the Raptors can just run a few of those high pick and rolls. Obviously, Conley and Gasol had the chemistry, and they've been playing together forever. But if they could somehow draw up a few more plays to get him some more shots, I think getting Gasol some more good looks, because his playmaking is ridiculous, his rebounding is ridiculous, his defense is great, right? That's not going to be issues with Gasol, and that's why the trade was smart. I know some people are bashing the trade because how well Jonas is playing, but Jonas wasn't going to be able to do all that stuff on the offensive end here. He's had some big games, he's had some up and downs. We know what to expect from Jonas, and if he has a breakout season, that's awesome. I'm rooting for Jonas 100%, but it probably wasn't going to happen with the Raptors. But Gasol brings everything else that Jonas really couldn't, and if he could just have that same offensive production that Jonas was bringing at the beginning of the season, which we know he's 1,000% capable because he was doing it with the Grizzlies, that's just going to be Gasol on a 1,000 times better level, and just get him a few clean looks. That's my request for Nick Nurse, but he made some great adjustments from that Orlando Magic game tonight, and got to give him credit. Got to give Nurse credit. You bash him, but then you got to give him credit when he does some good things. Shout out to the Raptors. Patrick McCaw came in, same as always for Patrick McCaw. Not the greatest offensive game. 6 points, not awful, but 2 of 7 from the field, 0 of 2 from the 3-point line. but his energy. We see the Celtics come out here, and at the end of this game, we saw it especially. Terry Rozier trying to bring the team back into it. All these guys, they're pretty energetic. Marcus Smart. The Raptors never really had those guys that were just crazy, feisty defenders. Patrick McCaw comes in and does that. He's one of those scary guys you can throw on some people and just get the energy going on the defensive end, and that's something great. That's very valuable to have as a team. It kind of kickstarts your energy, your defense, and then your offense gets flowing, whether you're up or you're in a slump or any of that sort of stuff. So Patrick McCaw does that sort of stuff. If he can get the shooting consistent, if he can get the buckets consistent, he might get some minutes in the playoffs. We'll see. Jody Meeks at 5 points. Another solid game from Jody. Only 7 minutes. He's looking like a solid pickup for a 10-day. He's looking like a solid 13th, 14th guy on the roster. So shout out to Jody Meeks, really playing well. And finally, Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin continues to impress off the bench. He's still getting used to the offense, but 8 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists from tonight. You can really see his all-around impact on the games. We've been saying it. He's kind of had similar games as the past few ones. Still getting adjusted. He's a quality backup point guard right now. And obviously with Fred VanVleet, he said he's a natural 2. If you listen to Jeremy Lin speak, he's more of a natural 2 guard. So we'll probably see some more scoring out of Lin when he's more off the ball. But he's doing a great job at facilitating and running the offense when Lowry's out of the game. And they've had some quality minutes together too. We see the ball. The Raptors love to run the 2 point guard lineup. And Lin is showing he can fit right in there. I'm excited to see what he looks like as he gets a bit more comfortable. You can still see the rust happening. Lin is one of the better 3-point shooters in the league. Obviously not like Steph knockdown shooters, but a guy that can shoot off the dribble, a point guard. He's certainly a very solid 3-point shooter, and he hasn't hit one yet for the Toronto Raptors, I don't believe. 0 of 2 from the 3-point line tonight. I think we just need Lin to get a bit more comfortable with the team. I think that's the biggest issue with the Raptors now. People say we're struggling in certain games. I think it's just all the new players we have coming together. Leo and Matt always joke about it looking like pickup basketball out there because the rosters so free-flowing, trades are happening, Kawhi Leonard's in and out, injuries have been happening. So I think as we just need to solidify a rotation, solidify some chemistry with some players down the stretch, and we're going to have games like this in the playoffs. I genuinely predict we have so many veterans. So no one on this roster I can really say I'm scared about in the playoffs. Someone that's going to be guaranteed in the rotation. There's a few guys that might be fringe rotation pieces like OG and Norm, but honestly, Norm's pretty good in the playoffs regardless. But, Lowry, regardless of the shots going down, he's going to bring all the other things he always does in the playoffs. And honestly, when he's healthy, he's a phenomenal playoff scorer as well. It's kind of a myth about Lowry being a choker, so to speak. He's usually just injured down the stretch, so hopefully he stays healthy. Danny Green, Kawhi are champions. Siakam is ridiculous. Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol are playoff seasoned veterans who always play well in the playoffs. Jeremy Lin is a guy that's a seasoned veteran as well. Never really been in the playoffs, but certainly is going to be amped to be there this season. And then Norman Powell, OG Anunoby off the bench. I think we can rely on at least one of those guys in the playoffs to at least perform. OG played really well in that Wizards series last year and in the Cavs, to be 100% honest. Norm's had playoff performances as well. And Fred VanVleet, steady Freddy, should be good. And Jody Meeks. Jody Meeks is a guy that can maybe splash a 3 or 2 down the stretch. But enough of me rambling about the playoffs. This game's got me too hyped. We're gonna swing it straight into the segments, and tonight, the Kawhi you do him like that play of the day. There's so many you could go to just because of how exciting this game was, and it's got to go to Pascal Siakam. Kyrie Irving. Not really the greatest game from Kyrie Irving tonight. The Raptors had him on lock. He also missed a few shots, but certainly the Raptors' defense can be credited for a lot of those misses. And he only had 7 points, 5 assists. And a lot of that came early, but he came in the lane, tried to do one of those fancy Kyrie moves, one of those fancy drives. Siakam said no. He was doing his Bismack Biyombo impression. Kyrie threw up one of his finishes around the rim. Siakam got up there with those long arms and sent it straight out of bounds. It was an exciting play. I always love watching Kyrie get blocked against the Raptors. Siakam's blocks. Everything Siakam does is just so energetic and gets everything hyped. So shout out to Siakam. Why you do Kyrie like that? Siakam? He's trying to make a name for himself around these star NBA players. But regardless, not all plays can be the Kawhi you do him like that play of the day, and some just make you say, oh, geez. And tonight, the oh, geez play of the day, it's not a play. And we're talking about Kyrie Irving a little bit. The whole Celtics roster was struggling, so I hate to bash on just Kyrie. But Kyrie, he's getting it again. The play goes to the cameraman. Kyrie, the bench was pretty sad on the Celtics. If I was watching the TNT feed, and they were just kind of talking about, they didn't really talk about the Raptors that much. I'm going to keep it real, and we'll get into that later. But the bench was looking pretty sad. They were saying how the Celtics' body language looks very poor, and they just had the game was going on, and they had the camera going on the Celtics bench, and I'll throw it up on the screen here. And they just all look so sad. I just have Kyrie on the image, but they held this there. They had a little zoom in on the camera. They had some good video effects. Really got the true emotion of what the Raptors did to the Celtics. You could see it all on their faces. They're all shook. So that made me happy. Made me say, oh, geez, looking at those guys on the bench. They look pretty sad. Hopefully we can do that in the playoffs, but certainly it made me happy. Made me happy as a Raptors fan. The Raptors had everyone on lock. Jason Tatum only had 11 points. Morris, he always plays well against us, but he took a lot of shots to get his 17 points. Smart didn't really do anything. Horford didn't really do anything. Their bench didn't do anything at all. Jaylen Brown looked very, very good at the start. Didn't do much going in later in the game. So, a lot of that has to do with the Raptors' defense. We came out more ready to go, but certainly there was a lot of shots that the Celtics missed too that could have been momentum swingers. So I'm not taking this game like it's a surefire thing. We're gonna sweep the East or anything like that, but it's very encouraging. It's very encouraging what the Raptors did. It's certainly a momentum builder going into the playoffs. But finally, the infamous, the one and only Damari Carroll Gold Star Award. And tonight, I mentioned I was watching the TNT feed, and I try and do it. I do it for you guys, to be 100% honest. I love Matt and Jack and Leo and the boys a lot more than the American ESPN reporters, but also I'm a homer. You guys know that. But so obviously I like hearing the Raptors reporters and commentators. But you hear what the rest of the league thinks about your team when you listen to the TNT feeds, the ESPNs, the national televised games in the States. So I gave it a listen tonight, and obviously we know that they don't watch every game. They probably don't watch every game of the Lakers or the Celtics, even the big name teams. I'm not bashing them for that. But it really seems like they haven't been keeping up on the Toronto Raptors at all. They all seem baffled by Pascal Siakam, how great he was playing. Pascal Siakam's been doing this all season. It's nothing new. It's nothing new for Pascal Siakam, and they make some comments. It's some weird stuff. They talk about the new acquisitions, and then I think it was Isaiah Thomas. I don't want to throw Isaiah Thomas under the bus. It was one of the three. I think Grant Hill and I forget who the third was doing Dennis Scott. I believe three of those were doing the commentating. One of them mentioned how they, out of all the signings that we made, of all the pickups, they were talking about how Jody Meeks was the big signing for the Toronto Raptors. Not Jeremy Lin, not a guy who's been a consistent plus 10 point per game scorer. Probably deserving starter in this league. Not Jeremy Lin, not Marc Gasol is a 3-time All-Star. None of these guys, not even Patrick McCaw is a 2-time champion. They're talking about Jody Meeks. Now, I got flamed for just saying he could shoot threes from you guys, right? And that's fair. He's not been super consistent regardless. But they were saying how he's going to be like an impact player. And Isaiah Thomas at one point said he could knock down 5 or 6 threes in a playoff game. I'm like, okay. It's kind of weird, their takes on the Toronto Raptors players. And a final thing, the Raptors were going on a run. They're playing really well. They kept it up there. I guess they aren't getting the gold star because they were kind of rooting for the Celtics to get back into it, as most commentators do when they're trying to be partial. Okay, we want to make this a game. That's fair. I'm not bashing on that. It wasn't because there's some Raptor hate, but when the Raptors were going on a run, instead of talking about how great the players were going, it's still kind of a game. They started talking about how Isaiah Thomas just changed and built. It was literally like a 10 to 15-minute segment on Isaiah Thomas and what he did for the city of Toronto, and how he comes in, he's like the mayor, and how everyone respects him and all that. And obviously Isaiah Thomas is a champion. He's done all that sort of stuff. But Isaiah Thomas didn't really end on the Raptors on a very significant note. He brought in some great talent when he was here. And, objectively, he drafted pretty well, and he got a few people to buy in for maybe the first 1 or 2 seasons. But Isaiah, for people that don't know the Isaiah Thomas story, and we could probably make a whole video on this. Let me know in the comment section if you want to know some more early Raptors, history lessons. I did some research on this one. Let me know if there's some facts I'm missing or, my sources are incorrect. I looked at, because they were talking about it for so long. I was like, did Isaiah Thomas really do all this stuff for the city? He drafted pretty nice when he was here, but he's only here for 2 seasons. And they were saying he built the hardwood and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, he got Damian Stoudemire, he got Marcus Camby, he got a few guys to buy in on the Raptors, and they had a decent team. But as GM, he literally, because he had ownership stake in the Toronto Raptors, I believe he had 9%. And 9% of an NBA team is ridiculous. Especially for a guy that got his money playing in the NBA. He's not, a billionaire or anything like that. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but regardless, it's not NBA money. And he kind of just threw the Raptors under the bus when he couldn't become a major owner. He wanted to become a majority owner for the Toronto Raptors, and he just kind of threw the team under the bus. The team went 1-17 for a stretch at the beginning of the season. All the players bought out because he kind of trashed us on his way out. So that it ended pretty poorly with Isaiah Thomas. If you want to, and this is kind of just like a brief description, you want me to go more in depth with it, definitely let me know in the comment section below. But certainly, he's a phenomenal basketball mind, NBA legend. Definitely was cool that he drafted well and did some things here, but certainly isn't a guy that we should revere as a Raptors legend. Masai Ujiri. If we're going to front office legend, Masai Ujiri's that guy. But regardless, let me know what you guys think of this game. I kind of went off topic there. But you can't give the DeMar Carroll gold star to the Raptors and any Raptor in this game the way how well it went. I'm running long here, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below. You're the best you make it this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. Check out Courtside Connect. Video dropped on there yesterday. Getting the editing and all that right. As we get more consistent with it, we'll definitely promote it more. The consistency is all the key with that channel. For the people that listen this far, and checked out the Courtside Connect before, we're trying to get consistent with it, so bear with us. And we think some big things could happen with that channel. Obviously, Raptors Digest is always going to be cooking. The season's exciting. Phenomenal win for the Raptors. I'm rambling too long. I'm signing out. Cheers.